maybe it wasn't an epiphany so much as a wake-up call. The night began ordinarily enough, like every other night since Derek had quit his job. He put on one of his new, expensive suits and went out to wander the city. He took himself to a 5-star restaurant for dinner, determined to enjoy every bite of food. That done, Derek decided to head down to the inner city slums and wander alone. He wanted to see what would kill him first, the cancer or a random psychopath. He was kind of rooting for the psycho. At least then it would be quick. Once he grew tired or bored of cheating death, he'd hail a cab and return home. He had one more thing to do before he started courting disaster. Derek downed a couple of new prescription-strength pain meds to help with the ever-growing ache in his chest. He liked the meds. They got him loose and happy. He didn't take anything too seriously when he was on them. Derek was walking alone quickly, high on his medications. And that's when he saw him. Chris Wainwright. The guy who slaughtered Carl and drove away without a scratch on him. Chris had gone to rehab as part of his court-appointed punishment. Evidently, rehab hadn't quite done the trick. The little jerk was holding a bottle of liquor, ill-concealed inside a paper bag. The murderer took a few healthy chugs from the bottle and staggered along, looking like he felt no pain, enjoying his life. Life. Exactly what he'd denied Carl. Chris was laughing loudly, his skinny arm draped around a teen girl who was showing a lot of skin. She wobbled along in stiletto heels, tugging down her miniskirt whenever it rode up. She took a long drag on a joint and traded the marijuana for Chris's liquor as they got into a car. It was a custom-painted muscle car, not the same Camaro that Chris had used to kill Carl. No, apparently that hadn't been flashy enough. This car was even bigger and more expensive. Derek felt something snap inside his mind as he watched his little brother's killer get high and drunk and slide behind the wheel of yet another car. Derek wanted to puke blood. How could he possibly have forgotten about that monster? Had his cancer really screwed up his brain so bad he'd let a loose end slip away? Maybe he'd wanted to believe that Chris could really change, that he'd learn from the murder and try to become a decent citizen. But no. All he cared about was enjoying his own damn life and letting other people pick up the check. Derek hated him more than he'd ever hated anyone. The tires screeched and the car almost ran down a homeless woman who was crossing the road. The skimpily dressed girl rolled down the window, yelling insults at the terrified woman. Derek could hear the two idiots laughing. Gritting his teeth, he studied the license plate as the car drove off. He memorized the letters and numbers, then hailed a cab and started to plan his final act. He had one more thing to do before he could shuffle off this mortal coil, and he was going to love doing it. First, he stalked Chris on social media, learning his routines and habits. The guy didn't have a lot going on. He partied, he bragged about getting laid, and he talked about how lame his parents were. What a swell kid. Once he had Chris's routine down pat, Derek began to follow him. He planted a GPS tracker under the Camaro so he could always know his exact location. Chris wasn't hiding anything. A casual glance of his Twitter showed that the kid had violated the terms of his parole deal at least 50 times. While following him, Derek took photos of Chris abusing alcohol and drugs. A normal person would have taken this evidence and gone to the police. He would have hoped the justice system wouldn't let him down this time. But Derek was anything but a normal person. He had no intent of submitting anything to the police. Chris would just get another slap on the wrist and then start being more careful. Besides, even if the cops took this seriously, time was not on Derek's side. He might not live to see Chris get everything that was coming to him. And by this point, Derek didn't think jail was a good enough punishment. Chris deserved real eye-for-an-eye vengeance. Nothing else would do. Derek had to be patient and wait for the right moment. Less than a week later, the moment arrived. Derek checked Chris's Twitter and saw the douchebag was headed to a rave tonight. Derek double-checked the equipment he'd organized. Everything was in order, so he loaded up the trunk of his car and jumped behind the wheel of his new black 1967 Chevrolet Impala. No better car for hunting monsters. Derek waited outside Chris's house until the little creep got into his dad's Camaro. Then he followed Chris closely. The rave was being held out in the boonies at some abandoned industrial warehouse, which was good. Soon the two cars were speeding along a highway in the middle of nowhere. When he was confident no one was around for miles, Derek sped up until he was riding alongside the Camaro. Then he banged into the side of Chris's car, forcing the kid to the side of the road. Derek pulled up ahead and stopped his own vehicle.
"What's wrong with you, old man? Look where you're going!"
Chris got out looking pissed. As soon as Chris stepped onto the side of the road, Derek took him down with a stun gun. The kid collapsed. Before he did anything else, Derek checked the Camaro for more passengers. Luckily, Chris was driving alone. Derek pulled every electronic device he could find off the brat. Phone, Fitbit, even Chris's digital keychain. Derek tied his hands and feet and ball-gagged the young man. Then Derek destroyed his own phone and the GPS tracker, tossing everything onto the road. Then he moved Chris to the trunk of the Impala, gunned the engine, and headed toward a party he'd arranged only for the two of them. Derek drove to an abandoned warehouse he'd scoped out ahead of time. He cut through the rusted lock and chain with bolt cutters and drove inside. He arranged a couple of chairs and a bucket of water. Then he got to work. When Derek opened the trunk, he saw that Chris had regained consciousness and tased the bastard again. Then he set Chris in the chair and bound him tightly. He also pulled the ball gag out of the kid's mouth. He wanted to hear him beg. When there was no chance to escape, Derek poured the bucket of water over the murderer's head. Chris awoke, sputtering.
"What the hell, man?"
he cried. "Hello, Chris. My name's Derek Esposito. You killed my brother. We need to talk." Chris tried getting out of the restraints. Derek picked up a nightstick and hit him in the groin. The guy squealed like a pig. "Where was I? Oh, yes. The last time we saw each other was during your farce of a trial. Do you remember?"
"You're crazy! Help! Someone help!"
Typical idiot behavior. Derek smiled. No one would come tonight. "Let's get down to business." Derek took 2 digital timers out of the car. He placed them on the ground in front of Chris, setting the first for 30 minutes and the second for 2 hours, 44 minutes, and 16 seconds.
"What the hell are you doing?"
Chris looked scared now.
"Listen, I can get you money. I can get you drugs. Anything."
"That isn't what I want, though."
"What the hell do you want?"
"This." Derek pulled out a gun and shot Chris twice through the liver. The boy screamed. Derek started both timers simultaneously and then checked the bullet wounds. The blood oozing from them was dense and black, a clear indicator of a crushed liver. "Now, before the pain overwhelms you, I need you to take a good look at the timers, Chris. They're important." Chris was still crying and screaming, so Derek had to slap him. Hard. That made him quiet down. "The 30-minute timer counts down how much time you have left to be rescued. When it goes off, your life is over. Even if someone did miraculously break through that door and rescue you, you couldn't survive. Your system will be flooded by unfiltered toxins by that point. No transplant could save you. Now, the 2 3/4 hour timer is a surprise. We'll get to that eventually. For now, your only task is to stay awake and experience every moment of pain, like Carl did." Derek wouldn't let Chris go unconscious. He kept slapping and zapping the prick awake, enjoying the sound of his screams. Soon, the first timer rang. Eventually, Chris stopped crying because the pain was too much for him. Derek didn't sit down. He paced back and forth, occasionally checking the second timer. When it rang, Derek finally spoke again. I have good news and bad news. Bad news comes first. The bad news is I lied. The first timer was meaningless. I crushed your liver when I shot you. Even the best hospital in the USA couldn't have saved you. I wanted to give you false hope that you could survive. That's what happened to my brother while he waited for help. The good news is the second timer. 2 hours, 45 minutes, and 16 seconds is how long Carl suffered after you hit him with your car. I may be many things. Unrelenting, vengeful, a liar, a murderer. But I'm also fair. You shouldn't suffer more than the man you killed. So your suffering ends now. Derek shot Chris through the head, then pointed the gun at his own temple. Little brother, I'm coming. Wait for me. And he pulled the trigger one last time. As Derek's body fell to the floor, he felt himself captured in a burst of white-hot light. He left his body behind and felt himself being pulled into the sky. After a whole lifetime of misery, grief, and pain, Derek felt his trauma and hatred fade away. He had never experienced such bliss. He felt no negative emotion. He was at peace with his past, unafraid of his future. Derek enjoyed a present moment that felt limitless with possibility. There was no right or wrong, success or failure. He simply existed. And then he woke up, alive and breathing heavily. All his negative emotions returned. He was plunged back into despair. Derek cursed inwardly while trying to focus his eyes. Maybe it was due to the shot to the head, but his vision was blurry. So much for the perfect plan. Some idiot must have rescued me. Somehow I survived the journey to the hospital. I'm still alive. I still have cancer. I'm still alone. Now I'm going to jail for the rest of my life. But when his vision finally cleared, Derek saw that he had miscalculated. Derek was in some kind of huge metal corridor surrounded by dead bodies. Dead alien bodies, to be precise. It was like the scene out of some schlocky science fiction B-movie. The aliens around him were all wearing some kind of full body armor. They wore spiked glass space helmets on their heads. Where the hell am I? What the hell's going on? Derek tried to get up, only to slip and fall back to the floor. He noticed then that he was wearing a spacesuit too. As he braced his fall with a hand, he realized that he had extra hands, 4 to be exact, and each hand had only 3 fingers.
What the actual hell is going on?
He cried.